We're going to focus on how to improve functional breathing while holding a static position. I'm going to coach you through two specific positions. We'll start in plank. So please assume the position on your forearms and extend the legs. Find a long spine, shoulder blades down the back, long neck, gaze slightly forward, and really engage and feel the length of the body. Now, once you're in the position of plank, I'd like you to focus on your breathing. I'd like you to feel that there is depth to your breath. Depth meaning low. Depth meaning lower ribs. Your breathing is going to be metabolically in relationship to the activity that you're doing. This breath is not shallow, it's not upper chest, it's not vertical. It feels deep. And now I'd like you to slow the breath down in proportion to the activity. Here, this may not be stressful for you right now. This may be the easier side of plank. So your slower breath is more accessible. But as you make the breath slower, I'd like you to notice how low it can be. And in relationship to as the stress increases in the activity, you can still maintain functional habit of breathing, the functional movement of breathing, which is nose, slow, and low. That is actually instigating proper movement of the diaphragm. It's creating the zone of opposition, which is just below the rib cage, to be optimal, which means core stability will be optimal. So as we're getting a little closer towards the end of this exercise, I'd like you to observe the breathing a little bit more and see if you can relate to how dynamically low it is, how broad and wide the ribs can go back, front, and sides, as well as making the breath a little bit slower, and then finally finish knees to the floor, child's pose, and relax back. Now, I may not have given you the full experience of plank. You may not have even gotten to the point where plank was challenging. This just gives you an idea of where to go. Now, in child's pose, stay there and begin to regulate your breathing. Remember, breathing light is possible here. So forehead resting on the floor, sits bones back against the heels, widen the knees a little bit for comfort, relax the chest down, and feel the belly soft, but now lighten the breath so that the breath is soft, gentle, slow, and rhythmic, and that it feels that it's deep, but it's creating an experience of air hunger, or that the volume of air has been reduced enough so that you're feeling like you'd like to take a bigger breath, but you're resisting against that in child's pose. So stay here for a few more rounds of breath, soft, light, gentle breathing, reduced volume, just enough so that you feel a desire to breathe bigger, but you resist against that desire. And by softening here, you feel the connection of the navel to the thighs, and you start to re-regulate, down-regulate the body after doing a stressful activity like plank pose. Now release yourself back up into a tall spine, sitting back on your heels. It's called hero's pose in yoga. And now you can sort of assess where you are in the experience. If you wish, you can put one hand on your heart, one hand on your navel, and just take a moment and feel. What is the experience like for you right now? Can you soften your breath a little bit more? Can you reduce the amount of air in the upper portion of the torso and bring it down deeper into the lower portion of the torso? Can you lighten the breath a little bit? Can you soften it? Can you make it a little bit slower? Can you reduce the volume without it becoming too stressful? Just play there for a moment and then release out of that. This is where we start to play a little bit just in how you shape the experience and what you're aware of as you're doing the experience. I'm guiding you, but your awareness is more important. So let's take this into a static squat, an air squat, no weight. Ideally now, what I'd like you to do is sit back in your heels. Your arms can be anywhere that's comfortable. On your waist is fine, reaching out is fine. Whatever you feel is good for your body. But really sit back into your heels, engage the quads, engage the glutes, engage the hamstrings, but make sure your chest is broad. Make sure that the shoulder blades are down the back. Make sure you're not overstraining in the upper body. So comfortably low, enough that you can hold this position now for the next few minutes. And in this position, I'd like you to regulate your breathing. Now, if you're getting better at this, but need help, bring your hands onto your lower ribs while you're in squat so that you can be clear that the expansion is happening in the lower ribs and not in the upper chest. Then you can bring your hands wherever you want them again. So keeping your gaze focused forward and really seeing if you can stay with the experience of low, slow nose and really regulating this experience in a different way. Yes, you're getting the advantage of a stronger quad and hamstring engagement, but I'd like you to focus on how the stress of the position is going to activate the breathing and how you, as a knowledgeable breather now, functional breather, you're going to regulate that experience through nose, slow, and low. Maintaining that the metabolic needs are growing, the more stressful the experience in the body. However, you're regulating that enough so it doesn't become fast, shallow upper chest. This may not be challenging for you, which is fine, but you can get informative information and experience just through holding this position and feeling what it's like to stress the body while functionally breathing, which is likely a very new experience for you. Remember that functional breathing means functional movement. Dysfunctional breathing means dysfunctional movement. You're practicing how to engage the proper movement in the diaphragm, how the proper movement of that diaphragm and lower ribs engages the zone of opposition and allows for proper movement in the ribs and the pelvis and the core area. Now, release out of this static squat and go into a forward bend of your choice, either wide-legged or feet hip-width apart, bending forward at the waist, neck is totally relaxed, top of the head pointing towards the floor. You can grab opposite elbows here if you want. Whatever you feel comfortable in a forward bend. I would prefer wider legs, just more comfortable for the hips. However you choose to do the forward bend, what I'd like you to do is regulate your breathing, just like you were doing in child's pose before. So in the forward bend, I'd like you to get really slow and gentle with your breathing. You may start to reduce the volume of air, the size of the air that's coming in and out of your body, just enough so that it feels softer, it feels more gentle, it feels more subtle, and all of those qualities and characteristics down-regulates you, your physical body, as you stay in this forward bend. And be curious now as you get lighter in your breath, softer, gentle, more subtle in your breath, reducing the volume comfortably. What is happening to the physical body? What's happening to the nervous system? What's happening to the muscle tissue? What's happening to the mind? Many layers and levels to be aware of. Now, please, hands on the hips, come tall, crown of the head pointing to the sky, arms resting by your side. Take a moment before you finish this to be curious about the feeling in the body. You may, if you wish, put one hand on your heart, one hand on your navel, and just see what's changing, what's different, what do I notice? And especially without my voice, when you do this on your own, you'll be able to hear your voice, you'll be able to feel the experience more fully without somebody guiding you and distracting you. So that's encapsulates the entire experience of a static, functional breathing, and I encourage you to use that as much as you can in your training sessions, reminding yourself of the power that this has for you. Functional breathing equals functional movement. Thank you. Peace out.